Everybody, Chris Grest here. So today we're going to be looking at the Firefield Optics Rapidstrike 1 to 10 LPVO. Let's get started. All right, so first off, I'd like to say thanks to Firefield Optics for reaching out to me and sending a couple optics out to the channel for review. So let's go ahead and take this thing out of the box and take a look at what it comes with. So kind of a quick unboxing, and then I'll roll into the actual review itself. So of course you got your instruction manual here. You're gonna have a lens cloth, a battery for the illumination, a kill flash attachment for the end of the optic. You have also a little tool for resetting the caps. The optic itself, and then you do have a L-shaped Torx bit. All right, so quite a bit of stuff that comes with this optic. One of the nice things about it right off the bat that I noticed was the fact that it does come with a mount. It's nothing fancy as far as a mount goes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here momentarily. However, this is a pretty nice looking optic overall. It does come also with lens caps, and then the stuff that you just saw here. As far as the owner's manual or user manual here, this thing here does have a lot of very useful information, including how to properly set up your mount. So the mount itself, one of the things that I will mention here is that the mount does come somewhat torqued, but you need to do a final setup and torque on the screws on the mount. And also I would recommend adding some thread locker as well. So some quick specifications on this guy: pop-up locking turrets, resettable turrets, second focal plane reticle. It's kind of a BDC style reticle with a horseshoe in the middle. It is a fully multi-coated optic, shockproof, fog-proof, as well as water resistance. And Firefield Optics did send me two of these optics, one to kind of torture test, and then this one here that you're seeing here that's totally unused. The torture test one, I put it through the gamut of stuff, as you guys are going to see throughout the video. So this guy does come with a mount. You will have to torque these down properly and add some thread locker as recommended. The instructions walk you through all that stuff. So if it's first time messing around with an optics mount, they got you covered in the manual. It comes with a set of very nice flip-up caps. The only thing that I would like to see a little different with the flip-up caps is some that lay flat against the tube, but it's not a deal breaker there. Sometimes if they don't flip flat, for me, especially when I wear a hat, they can get in the way. The mount on here is nothing fancy, you know, but it is nice that it comes with a mount, right? So it's a basic mount that that will work, in my experience, worked just fine. But you know, it's not nothing fancy, but not many optics are coming with a mount these days. It does have pop-up resettable turrets. These are half MOA clicks, and it also has a red and green illumination. They have a kind of a BDC reticle. It's called a CR1, and it's a horseshoe up top with some holdovers down below. All right, so here you can see that I have one of my cameras set up in line with the optic as best I could. It was a little hard to get the clarity of the optic on camera on video so you guys can see, but you can see the different illuminated reticles here in bright sunlight. So they're not daylight bright, but they're not too bad. And then I do run through the magnification so you guys can kind of see how the optic looks. And I got some shadowing from my hand kind of popping in and out of there, so I apologize on that. But as you get past about 8 or 9 power, the eye box does start to get a little bit tight. So that would be kind of my only complaint. Other than that, super clear. Yeah, and as far as the turrets themselves, they are pop-up turrets. So typically on a LPVO such as this, I kind of prefer the cap turrets. However, if they are pop-up turrets, that's kind of the best of both worlds. So the reason I like a turret cap, normally or a cap turret, is so that the turrets don't get inadvertently moved around. I have some LPVOs that are kind of like that if you're not careful, they'll get adjusted out of spec. So these are nice because you can easily adjust them without pulling the cap off. However, they are not going to move around on their own. So the way these work is you pop them up and then you can do your adjustment and then you push them back down and then it is going to lock in that adjustment setting. So, and speaking of these turrets are very, very, very tactile and audible, and for the value that this scope brings, I think that's an outstanding aspect of these. So the designer of these, so these are designed in Texas but are made overseas. They put a lot of thought into the turrets and what people would want. So kudos to them on that. But let me see if I can. So hopefully you guys can hear that, but these are very tactile, very audible turrets. And honestly, these turrets are nicer than a lot of turrets on more expensive or more pricier optics. So that's a pretty awesome thing in my opinion. So Firefield Optics, once again, big thanks to them for sending these couple of optics out to the channel. They did send two, one to kind of durability test, and then the other one, as you see right here that I just unboxed. This one here is just kind of one that I wasn't going to beat the heck up. But let's go ahead and take a look at the one that I was doing my durability testing on. So that's this guy over here. And you're going to notice right off the bat that I do not have the original mount on here. And the reason for this is that the first part of my testing after I got this thing sighted in, I did use it on a 16-inch as well as a 14.5-inch 5.56 rifle, mainly because that's the intended use on an LPVO, in my opinion, is for mostly short-range work, but with a higher magnification for reaching out there a little bit. And this thing sighted in with no fuss at the range, and I put a lot of rounds through it. Then I started durability testing, and the very first test that I did was a run over test. All right, let's see how this thing looks. Well, it's canted in the mount a little bit, but see if we can straighten that thing up. And I ran this over with my Raptor, and it actually damaged the handguard, bent the handguard, and bent the mount that the scope was mounted to, but did not damage the optic. The optic itself, 100% function. A little bit of maybe some marks and stuff you can kind of see here. There are some ring marks from the pressure put against the tube from the mount when it was bent. So the fact that it bent a Geisley handguard and the mount that came with this, but the optic survived, that's that's something else right there. And I ran over it and backed over it, and against my better judgment, looking back, I should have just taken the optic off the rifle and set it down and ran over it. But I wanted to kind of be real world. You know, what happens if you forget that your rifle's laying up against your truck and you go to drive off and it falls under the tire? That sort of scenario, that's what I was after. So anyways, I went ahead and mounted it on this other mount that I had laying around. This is a Geisley mount, so this is about as strong of a mount as you can get, and that was kind of why I went this route. I do have some cheaper mounts. But after that, I put this thing in the freezer for about 5 days, and well, it looks like the illumination is still working. That's good. I think it got down to like negative 27 degrees, something along those lines, and I'll roll in some footage from that. But after 5 days in the freezer, in my deep freezer, this thing, you know, the illumination is still working fine. I had no issues with any sort of egress into the optics tube, moisture, water, anything like that. And that's kind of what I was wanting to test, is what happens if this thing is in an extended Arctic condition. You know, is the tube integrity going to hold up? So, and it held up perfectly fine. The other test I did was I put it in an oven, toaster oven, for a couple hours. I didn't want to put it at 300 degrees, but I put it at something that would be comparable to being left in a vehicle or something, and had no issues there as expected. And then I followed up with some drop tests. So the drop tests, I did them and on the rifle, so the weight of the rifle, and I dropped it upside down. And I dropped it upside down, and that's when I started having a little bit of issues with the optic. The optic still is 100% functional. However, what happened was I think it probably hit on the throw lever here a little bit, and now that I have a little bit of a hang up around, or a notch, if you will, right around the 5 power mark. So it did not affect function at all. However, it is a little bit of noticeable damage there. So, but other than those things, this thing is held up. And of course, I could have went through and just totally destroyed this optic, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of keep things real world, if you will. And, you know, I'm going to continue testing this thing. So if you guys have any thoughts of anything you would like to see done that makes sense, you know, short of shooting it with a rifle or a shotgun and trying to totally destroy it, or throwing it in a fire pit, you know, just let me know. I'll be happy to continue doing some stuff to this optic and just see how it holds up. But so far, I got no complaints on it. All the durability testing that I put this thing through, had no real effect on the optic. The mount got bent, part of my rifle got bent when I did the run over test, and you know, this thing just keeps on trucking. So really impressed with this thing. I think the value that this provides from the folks over at Firefield is quite tremendous. When I first got these optics, I was unsure how I was going to like them. Kind of go by the buy once, cry once type of methodology. I try to buy, you know, better stuff than what I can afford sometimes even. And you know, these definitely are on the low end of the budget spectrum. So you know, I also have a Arkin EP8 that's about twice as much as this, and this thing is it's not quite as nice as that, but it's pretty dang nice. So I think if you are looking for a good quality LPVO that's robust, that's going to hold up to some abuse, but you don't have or don't want to spend a lot of money, I think this is a really good option. If I had to give maybe a couple of suggestions, the lens caps I mentioned already. Also with the illumination, there are some other companies that have an illuminated reticle that have a shake awake feature where they will turn off after a period of idleness and then turn back on whenever they detect movement. Now, the only one I can think of that's even close to this one would be one of my loopholes. They have their fire dot reticle, and I have an old LPO of theirs that that has that option. But other than that, I have not seen that from a lot of other manufacturers around the lower end of the price spectrum. So it would be pretty cool if Firefield optics could integrate that type of technology. I think it would be a winner. So most of you guys that have illuminated reticles, I'm sure y'all have been there where you turned on your illumination, you forgot about it, and next time you went to use it, the batteries were dead. So speaking of illumination, the illumination is, in my opinion, not daylight bright. It's bright enough, but it's more suitable for low light conditions, and once again, they do give you the green as well as the red option for that. All right, so final thoughts on this thing. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. For the price point, I think it's an awesome value. Firefield has been great to work with. I'm going to give this a thumbs up from my my experience so far. Now, I do have a quantity of 2, but really I've been using the 1 for the most part. So we'll see. I'll continue to do testing. If I have something to report back, I definitely will. But again, I think this is definitely a winner for the price point. So if you're looking to pick up one of these, definitely I am an affiliate of Firefield Optics now. So if you head over to my website, use the link provided over there, the channel does get a bit of a kickback on that. So always appreciate anytime you guys can use my affiliate links. What do you guys think about this optic so far? It's a 1 to 10. They also have a 1 to 6. So if you don't want that 1 to 10 power, for me, what I found with a lot of the higher power LPVOs, 1 to 8, 1 to 10, is when you get to the higher end of the magnification, the eye box gets super tight. So that's kind of one of the gripes I have, but that's not just a Firefield gripe. That's a gripe with the other ones that I have as well. They pretty much, when you get up to that higher spectrum, they start to be a little bit more of a challenge in regards to eye box. This thing is awesome up to 1 to 8, between 1 to 8, 1 to 9. But after that, it gets to be pretty tight. So probably doesn't help that my eyes suck as well. But all right, so that about wraps it up on the Firefield Optics Rapidstrike 1 to 10 LPVO. As always, thank you all for watching and subscribing, and I will catch you all in the next one. Y'all take it easy.